Hey and welcome to our video. Today I will show you how to create this cool looking effect. It's text effect for this one, but it could be applied to any shape, where we have like a wireframe base, and for each vertex there is this little circle being drawn, so it's like a handles for wireframe grid, if I can say it like this. It's actually based on one of my previous tutorials about creating a wireframe text effect. If you haven't seen it, I will post the link in the description. So let's get started. Let's start with a new blank document, and in here we will draw a new shape. So I'll select Insert, Shapes, New Freeform Shape. That's kind of important because we cannot access vertices for anything else than freeform shape. We could access the vertices for automatic shapes, but we have to first convert it to freeform shape. So why don't we start with a freeform shape from the beginning? So I will select freeform shape, and I will draw a fairly simple shape like in the shape of letter W with 5 vertices, and I will end my drawing by pressing the Enter key like this, and then we can start writing the code. So let's open the developer ribbon. If you don't see it, just right click, select customize ribbon, and make sure that the developer checkbox is being checked. Then I will open the macros, and for this document I will create a new macro which I will name draw vertices, and click create. Now we need to know few things. We need to know how to access those individual vertices. So if I quickly open the MSDN website, here you can see that we can access those vertices by shape.vertices. It's type variant, and there is an example actually which makes things a lot more easier to understand. So the vertices is a two-dimensional array. The first dimension is the index of the vertex. So first will have the index of 1, the second vertex will have the index of 2, and so on. The second dimension is the x or y value, so 1 is for x and the 2 is for y. So with this knowing, we can start writing the code. So I will jump to our blank document, open the Visual Basic editor, and I will set that I want a new variable called, for example, vert array as a variant, and I will say that vert array equals to selection dot shape range, which gives us all the selected objects, but we want only the first one from this selection dot vertices. Okay, so we have the vertices stored in the vert array. Now we need to know how big this array is, so we can draw the amount of vertices which are needed. So I will set a new variable called array size as long, and we need to know how this vert array is sized, what's the number of vertices in the array. For this one we will use a function uBound, which gives us the size of the array. The second parameter is dimension, but just because we want the first dimension we don't need to have this, it's optional. So we will say that the array size equals to uBound vert array. And just to make sure that everything is right, we can quickly show this value. So I will say message box array size. I will jump to our document, make sure that our shape is selected, and if I run this macro I should get the number 5. We have 5 different vertices, so it's working nicely. With this information in mind, we can create a loop. So I will say for counter going from 1 to the number of vertices which is stored in the array size. We will of course draw something and then say next counter. We will draw something with the function active document shapes dot add shape, for example, and now we want to draw something. We have to specify the type, which could be a number or a word, which is obviously much easier to understand. We just have to know what to look for, and in this case it's the MSO auto shape type enumeration. So if I quickly search for oval, the name should be MSO shape oval. I can of course type in number 9, but if I type in MSO shape oval it's much easier to understand. So I'll type in MSO shape oval. So the left will be the vert array. First dimension is the counter, second is 1 for x. For the top it's also vert array. First dimension is counter, second dimension is 2 for y value. The width and height we can for example set to 4 both, and I will say select. Now this shape will be drawn from the top left corner of the vertex, which is not exactly what we want. We want it to be centered. So we have to subtract some value from the x and the y, and since the size is 4, we will subtract the half of it, so -2 for x and -2 for y. And that should be probably it. So let's try to run this macro. Voila, we get a shape for each vertex, which is exactly what we want. So with this very simple shape working, let's try to add those handles to our previous text effect. So I'll delete everything, and from our previous example I will copy this letter G into our document. I will make it much bigger if I can do it. It's sometimes quite hard to resize shapes in Word, as you can tell. I will maybe center it on the page like this. I may also change the color theme to something a little bit different, like the wild one. Change the background color to be a darker one, and of course the line should be lighter so we can see it somehow. So I'll change the outline to maybe this green one, kind of like it. Then we will run our macro, and we should get an oval or ellipse for each vertex. Okay, so we have a lot of different shapes. In order to work easily with all those shapes, I will select objects. I will select all the objects. Then I will open the selection pane and make sure that everything except for the freeform shape is selected. I will group all those ellipses so they are all in one group. Then I can zoom in again and change the outline maybe to some green color and fill to be the same color as the background, for example. And this should be a very similar effect like I was showing in the beginning. It doesn't have to end here. If you want to have different shapes instead of ellipses, we can still select the group and use a function change shape. We can change it to whatever we like. We can change it to rectangle, or we can change it to maybe, I don't know, a triangle. I don't like this one very much, but maybe you will find a usage for different shapes than just a rectangle or a circle. Maybe it would be nice to change this to hexagon, but straight away it doesn't look very nice because the hexagon proportions shouldn't be the same as a square or a circle. The hexagon should be a little bit wider. I believe it's about 80% height of the width. So maybe we can try to do it as well. We cannot resize the shapes when we have them grouped, but we can quickly ungroup everything. We can right click any of those shapes, select more layout options and set the size to something different. So let's say the width, for example, to be 0.2 centimeters, and then we can set the 80% of this value, which is 0.16. That should make everything a little bit bigger, and also the shape should be in the right proportions. It's important to not to click anywhere else before we group everything together, just so we don't have to select everything else again. So if I zoom out like this, you can see we have a nice looking hexagon shapes for this wireframe outline. And I think that I will end here and let you do all the experiments. So thanks for watching.